Okay, are we ready to go here?
Yay! Give me a second. Let me just introduce the stuff. People
Not a
usually
problem.
like 1 to 2 minutes to log in. So
No problem.
there's some parts of US they're just coming back from lunch. So there's 180 people registered. So I can't believe.
Nice.
Yeah. So how's the snow situation there?
Actually, it's a lot of it's melting. It's well, relatively speaking for here, warmer.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I hope this is the end.
Yep. I got back from lunch. I actually asked for an iced coffee. If that says anything.
If anybody else, yes, but in your case, I don't know. Just a show of kind of hands here on the sidebar here. Can everybody hear us and also see my good friend Ray? So just if you can comment here, that'll be awesome. So let's get started. It's about 2 o'clock. Should we give them a couple of minutes more? Wow, it's just jumped from 20 to 30 in like no time.
Sure. Let me just test one more thing here. Can you see my
Yeah,
slides? Okay.
not
Oh,
yet.
wait a minute. Let's try this again. How about now?
Nope, because I didn't
Nope.
make you a presenter. You're a panelist only, not a presenter. So that's why.
Gotcha.
So see, Uncle Paresh has all the power in his hands.
Okay, I see it now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
All right. I'll
okay.
click
So
this. I'll click this when we're ready
yeah,
to go.
yeah. Hey, good afternoon, folks. It's 2 o'clock on Friday. Um, an awesome day here in Boston, and from what I hear from Ray, it's really lovely in Albany too. So just a quick thing. Today is networking 101. It's actually something similar. That was my first ever presentation at a SQL Saturday or a user group 10 years ago when Adam Mechanic, our good friend, had inspired me to go and talk in front of a user group. And I was quite amazed that this and any professional development talks actually draw a full house, which is so even in the Azure Data Fest that I spoke at, my chat about interviewing skills was absolutely jam packed, not even a place to stand. So I'm pretty inspired and I'm thankful to Ray for taking time off his schedule. He is busy. So while he's not playing piano and weightlifting, he's also working. He's generally busy. Let me see. Somebody raised their hands. Can we have a slide, please? Yes, sir. Nusrat, give us a couple of minutes. We are not yet uh, having him present anything. So give me 2 minutes just introducing Ray. And so, folks, you'll find that a lot of us geeks, especially, are very, very happy getting confined into our own cubes. We don't like to cross. Oh my God, what happens if I say hello to somebody? That's what a killer is. Don't get stuck here. I don't want to take Ray's thunder, and Ray will also tell you few more events that are coming up from our side. Mind you, in 2 weeks we have networking 102 coming up, and then 2 more weeks after that is a very good friend of the New England SQL Server community and local SQL community, Azure community. His name is George Walters. For those who don't know him,
Mm.
yeah, and he is actually going to talk about working at Microsoft, what it takes, what is the diversity there, why Microsoft gives such an importance to certification, how do you get those certifications, etc. And we really want you guys to enjoy that. I think it is on the 6th or something like that. I have to schedule it, but I just will let you know. It's an awesome seminar at the time. And if you like to hear of any other topics, anything at all, please email it to us, tweet about us at pass_prof_dev, and we'll be there. My Twitter handle, and Ray, while you're opening up your slides, if you can just type up my Twitter handle at Paresh Mutivala for others to see it.
Okay.
Awesome, right? And
Okay. Hold on. Let me see if I can get.
Sure.
Here, let me do this here. How about if I
I'll
no?
post it in the, and what I'll do is I'll make it as a comment and send it out to everyone who's attended. I think that might
Okay.
be useful, right? Beautiful. So it's all yours, my friend. Ray, take it away. And
Okay.
what I do is uh, just let them know how would you like to field questions, whether it's okay to ask them anytime in the middle. From what I know of you, yes, definitely.
Okay, yeah, that is correct. I do like interactive presentations. As a matter of fact, I will mention that I have worked part-time as an instructor before, and my usual MO when I'm teaching a class is for us to have a group discussion and where I act as the moderator. That's how I prefer to work. So if anybody has any questions, by all means, feel free to bring them up during this presentation. But so first of all, Paresh, you can see that notepad. Is that your correct? Um,
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so
My
anyway,
Twitter, right? And folks, if you can see his slides, also just raise your hand now. Nusrat, can you just go ahead and ping us if you are able to see his slides? He's now started sharing.
okay, Can- okay. And another question: can you see the camera too, or is it just the slides? Yeah, hello.
Okay, somebody responded. Wait. Nusrat says nothing, nothing, nothing. Both, both, both. Yes.
Both. Okay,
One
good.
person couldn't see nothing. Everybody else can see both. So
Okay,
well, they can see you. So you might want to minimize your camera too. Ugh.
okay. Yep. So
Okay.
anyway, welcome to my. Here's what I'll do. I'll shut up my webcam. So, okay, here we go. So welcome to my presentation. This is my presentation entitled Networking 101. Building professional relationships. Good afternoon. Well, at least it's afternoon here in upstate New York. If you're on the West Coast, good morning. If you're in Europe, good evening, and if you're anywhere else, good day. So before we get started, I'm going to take a screen here to talk about a little bit myself, to introduce myself, in case you're wondering who this person is you're listening to right now. There is my blog information. Go check out my blog. I write a lot about professional development topics, mostly about writing. I'll talk about that a little more in a little bit. That is my LinkedIn address. If you want to connect with me through LinkedIn, please include a note that you met me on here or saw my presentation or whatever. If you don't include a note, chances are, if I don't know you, it's going to go ignored. So be forewarned about that right now. But a little bit more about me. I'm a IT professional. I've been working since well, for a while. I'll leave it at that. You can just see it on your screen there. Those are the jobs that I've worked at one point and another. I'm currently a developer, although I will admit that is a bit of a misnomer. I'm actually more of an analyst and a technical writer right now than a developer. Um, I speak frequently for SQL Saturday. I do know quite a bit about databases in SQL. However, I am not a SQL MVP. I am not an expert. I probably fall under the category of knows enough to be dangerous. I like to think of it as I know enough SQL to be able to get the job done. I am currently a member and also a co-founder of what's called CASUG. If you need to know, that stands for Capital Area SQL Server User Group in the Albany, New York area, and I'm a member of the Albany UX Group. I have degrees in computer science and technical communication. I am a proud Syracuse grad. If you'll notice, I even made it a point to wear my school colors today. If you get to know me, one thing you will discover about me is that I bleed orange. Half my wardrobe is orange. I have a Syracuse jacket. I even have Syracuse license plates in my car. Um, Other stuff about me, interests. That's a picture of my wife, and our two kids have 4 legs and fur. I will confess that I'm doing this presentation out of my living room, so I apologize in advance if the furry one stops and interrupts me. If he does so, I'll introduce him to everybody if you like. Um, in my spare time, I'm a musician. I play 4 different instruments. If you can't see the screen, those 4 instruments that I play are piano, clarinet, mallet percussion, and the saxophone. I am a big sports fan. Uh, Again, loyal to my alma mater. I bleed orange. Huge baseball fan. I can talk your ear off about baseball all day long. And I realize, I may not look like it, but I do CrossFit. Yes, I am doing the CrossFit Open. After I get done this presentation, I will probably head to the gym to do 19.3. Those of you who are doing CrossFit will know what I'm talking about. And if you ever go to SQLServerCentral.com, under the forums that say anything that has nothing to do with SQL, go to the one about fantasy football. I am part of that group. I have won 2 championships in fantasy football. So anyway, enough about me. Let's move on to some other stuff. Here's some other things that Paresh mentioned. And Paresh, if I miss anything here, by all means, feel free to bring it up. First of all, on March 20th, which is a couple of weeks, our next past professional development virtual presentation, Networking 102, getting ready for a SQL event by Matt Cushing. I will mention I have seen this presentation live and in person at a SQL Saturday, and Matt is a good guy, even if he is a Red Sox fan. If it makes you folks feel any better, my wife is a Red Sox fan. Yes, it is a mixed marriage. But anyway, I digress. Matt gives a very good presentation. I suggest you go check it out. As a matter of fact, I will probably register for this presentation myself. On March 30th, out in Boston, more accurately Burlington, Massachusetts, will be SQL Saturday number 813, the BI edition. I myself will be speaking at this SQL Saturday. I will be doing my presentation on how to talk technology to non-technical people. On July 20th, here in Albany, New York, we will be holding our own SQL Saturday, number 855. Come check it out. It's always a great time. And I don't know whether or not I'll be speaking yet, but I will be volunteering, so I'll be there regardless of whether I'm speaking or not. And also in the local area, we have our SQL user group, which I mentioned before, the Capillary SQL Server user group. We meet the second Monday each month. As a matter of fact, our next meeting is this coming Monday, and our speaker is none other than George Walters, who will be out here to speak on Monday. So, all right, enough about myself, enough about upcoming events. Any questions from anybody or Paresh? Did I forget anything here? Or yes? No? All right. So without further ado, let's get started here. So about this presentation that you're about to see, this is not technology specific at all. This is a professional development presentation. It is based mostly on my own personal experience. It is entirely possible that you could see this presentation by another person, as you will in a couple of weeks, and he'll have some stuff that's either completely new or completely different. I encourage that by all means. I think it's healthy to see other points of view. As a matter of fact, I commonly attend SQL Saturdays presentations that are similar to mine to see how other people do it. Like I said before, I don't like to lecture. I prefer to act as a facilitator. So if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to bring them up. Paresh, if anybody sends anything in, then by all means, feel free to interrupt me. Again, feel free to ask questions. So here's what we'll talk about here. First of all, what exactly is networking? We'll talk about that. Why is networking important? Where are some places to go networking? Breaking the ice, probably one of the toughest things they'll talk about when it comes to networking. We'll discuss that. Here's where we're probably going to have a little bit of trouble with this presentation. When I do this at a SQL Saturday, I usually take about 10 minutes to allow for a networking exercise in the room. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that in this virtual environment. When we get to that screen, what I'll do is I'll just talk about it briefly and talk about how it works, what we do. Maybe we'll take some questions about it, and if we're able to in this forum, I don't know if we'll be able to, but we'll see what happens. Maybe have a little bit of discussion or questions, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Online is a huge deal when it comes to networking. We'll talk about that a little bit. So before I get started, does anybody have any questions before we get going here?
I'm monitoring the questions. So if there's somebody raising it, I'll just bring them up to you as soon as possible. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so let's start with networking. What exactly with it is it? I was curious about the definition of myself, so I went to dictionary.com, and this is what came up. I won't read through this entire thing. I'll let you read that for yourself. Basically, support system, utilization of computer network, this, that, the other thing. But for our purposes today, we're going to assume the following. Networking is any time where you establish some kind of relationship with another person. There are different kinds of networking. We'll probably touch on that a little bit as we go through this presentation. We're probably we are definitely going to concentrate primarily on business and professional networking. But that said, there is a importance, if you will, to social networking as well. So we'll touch on that as well a little bit as we go through this thing. All right. So here's some things to remember as we go throughout this discussion. There is an art to networking. Anything that we talk about, anything that I tell you in these slides are not hard, fast rules. There is an art to it. There's more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak. Some things that might work for you or may not work for you. Who knows? You'll have to see how it works. Networking takes time. This is probably not something that will happen. This will not happen overnight. It's not like you can go on to start a LinkedIn account tomorrow, network with, say, connected like 3 or 4 people and say, I'm networking now. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. In order for a network to really be effective, you need to have a relatively sizable population. I'm connected to a little over 500 people, I guess. Maybe more than that. I need to check again. I don't remember what the number was. Paresh, I think you yourself said you were connected to, what was it, over 1,000? A couple thousand, was it? I don't remember what the number was.
3,500.
Is it that many? Wow.
Yep.
Okay, well, Paresh's network is pretty sizable. So, and again, these kind of relationships are going to take some time. It could take days, months. It might even take years. It's actually taking me a few years to build up the network that I have now. So I hate to break this to everybody. It might require stepping out of your comfort zone. This is something that, especially if you're introverted, it might make you feel uncomfortable. We will talk about that a little bit as we get into this presentation. It's probably going to require some kind of effort. Again, sorry, no way around it. Networking is a two-way street in that it is mutually beneficial. It's not just you saying, hey, can I ask you a favor? And you don't give anything back. That's what a communication is. That's what a relationship is. It's bidirectional. And there are a lot of different ways to network. I'm not going to talk about all of them. It's practically impossible to talk about all of them in an hour-long presentation. So, first of all, why is networking important? Just out of curiosity, if you can raise your hands, how many people are job hunting on this call? Any idea?
I am.
Paresh, can you give me a? Yep. Okay, that's right. I know you are. I forgot about that actually.
Cool. So,
So,
yes. Yeah, I see nobody has raised their hands yet, so we can continue here. So,
okay, well, not a big deal, not important. So anyway, one of the biggest reasons why it's important is job hunting is probably one of the biggest reasons. I came across this article on LinkedIn that states that 85% of all jobs are filled through networking. I don't know whether or not that is still the case with that number, but it would not surprise me if that was still the case. Uh, there's nothing wrong with going out there and looking through classified ads and cold calling and stuff like that, but that's pretty much the old way to do it. These days, networking is the way to go. personal story here, I will mention that my current job right now, I am currently a contractor through a company called Tech Systems, and I got my current job because of Facebook. The guy that hired me was actually one of my Facebook friends, and I mentioned that I was looking, and he sent me a personal message saying, "Hey, listen, I might have something for you." We connected, we started talking, and he eventually hired me. Developing professional relationships, it's always good to have these relationships with these professionals that you talk to and developing a rapport with them. Career advancement. For those of you who want to climb the ladder, I'm sure that's important to you. The more people you connect to, the better your chances would be of climbing that ladder and advancing your career. I'm sure a number of people have heard of something called the hive mind. What that is basically asking people for advice, trying to resolve a problem, this, that, and the other thing. Um, Somebody out there might have an answer or a problem that you might have. Who knows? Um, if you're trying to solve something, ask your network. Maybe some might know the answer. Increased exposure. One of the neat things about my adventures here with SQL Saturday and all of that is that more and more people are getting to know me, and I'm starting to develop a little bit of a name out there in SQL Server circles, if you will. I've gotten to be very good friends with other SQL Saturday presenters, Paresh for one, even though he will never admit it. I hear you chuckling there, Paresh.
I know.
Make new, yeah, I know. Making new friends, hey, great little side benefit there. We're human, we're social animals, and we like to be friendly for the most part. So first of all, where do you go network? Let's start with some of the obvious examples. You may or may not have a local user group. Like I said, we have a local SQL user group here in Albany that I help co-found, and I help run it. I'm mostly the communications person for that thing. So check out some user groups locally. That'd be a great place to see if you can go network. Data professionals might look at SQL Saturday, or if you're familiar with PASS and the way they work, there's also the PASS Summit, which is this coming November in Seattle. They hold that thing every year. I've heard it described as the Super Bowl SQL Saturdays. Technical professionals might look for like a .NET user group. Okay, yes, I realize for me that is a local user group. I am not sure of what major nationwide user groups there would be for tech professionals. I think Microsoft might have some out there, but take a look around and see what you might have out there to connect. I'm sure there are user groups out there in your area. And by the way, that does include online. I have a technical writing background, so there is a group called the Society for Technical Communication. General and various meetups. Meetup.com is a great place to look. And the bottom line is look for any groups that meet or are related to anything that you are interested in professionally, and go check it out. So those are the obvious examples. There's some not so obvious examples, such as how many folks are parents, and how many you take your kids out to, say, I don't know, soccer games, little league games, uh, your kids' concerts. You're basically going to interact with other parents. Well, guess what? These other parents have professional lives too, and it's very well possible that some of these people may be in the same line of work that you are. So that's one place where you might want to go connect. Um, extracurricular extracurricular activities. I mentioned at the top of this presentation that I'm a musician in my spare time, so I'm actually a member of a large symphonic concert band here locally in the Albany area, and that's one of my activities, and I connect a lot through that group. Uh, Alumni functions. I'm not sure how many of my audience here actually went to college or are active with their alumni group, but another place where you can go network. Your gym. Another thing I mentioned, that's a picture of me in CrossFit. Um, I've actually connected with a bunch of people through my gym. I've gotten to be very good friends with them. I've even met two people there who I've gotten to come join our local sequel group. Any social function, parties, cookouts, barbecues, whatever. If you remember a church group, book club, meeting, any activity. Bottom line, anytime you interact with other people, that's a networking opportunity. So social networking is important as well. To be successful with professional networking, it also helps to be uh, good at networking socially. Why is that? Well, if you're likable, if you're approachable, chances are that people are more likely to engage you, and you're also more likely to be remembered. On the flip side, if you're not likable, chances are people are going to want to stay the heck away from you. Um, be wary of your own body language. Unspoken communications can speak volumes. Um, I'm going to take a minute to switch back to the camera here so you can see me on here. I mean, for example, if you're sitting here like this, or if you're sitting here with your arms folded like that, or something or other, if you're disinterested, chances are that people may not want to approach you. So it helps to be wary of body language. Um, all right. So how are we doing so far, by the way? Anybody have any questions or comments so far?
I'm actually constantly monitoring, so you'd never actually have to seek that out.
Okay, no problem. My force I have it. I like to ask that question throughout my presentation.
Yeah.
So anyway, actually, at this point, I am going to ask the audience a question here. To my audience, show of hands, how many of you are uncomfortable with trying to talk to people, breaking the ice? Just get an idea here.
So yes, somebody did actually say, "How do you make people like you?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. I'll get to that. But
Okay.
those of you who feel uncomfortable, I want you to notice something. My own hand is up. I tend to be very outgoing. A lot of people think I'm extroverted. Um, Let me let you in on the secret. I can be either or. I can be just as easily be the person at a party who doesn't know anybody, sitting all by himself off in the corner. So I know what it's like to be introverted. So it's awkward. I get it. I understand that. So if you're introverted, don't worry. You're not alone. It's human nature. Like I said before, you're going to have to make some kind of effort. Sorry, folks. There's no way around this. It's going to involve stepping out of your comfort zone. If there's anything I've learned out of life, it's that if you want to be successful, you need to learn how to step out of your comfort zone. As a matter of fact, if you go to my blog, I've got entire articles that I've written about stepping out of your comfort zone. I don't know how many people on here are familiar with an organization called Dale Carnegie. I myself am a Dale Carnegie grad, and one of the things that they teach you in that course is to step out of your comfort zone. Find ways to break the ice, and that's something we're going to discuss a little more in depth in a little bit. It takes practice, just like anything else. Anytime I think of a situation where you're practicing being social, um, all I can think of is that geeky kid in high school is practicing kissing a girl off in the corner. I don't think you necessarily have to go to that extreme, but again, if it doesn't come naturally, go to a mirror, practice in front of a mirror, or find a friend, and talk to that person and see what kind of advice or feedback you can get from that person, and prepare. It doesn't hurt to prepare in advance. And again, if you're going to some kind of event where you're nervous or don't feel comfortable, bring a friend. Um, it doesn't hurt to have a little moral support there, by all means. If you're going to a sequel Saturday the first time, by all means, bring a friend. But the more the merrier. So when it comes to establishing relationships, there are pretty much three basic steps. Step number one, which is the hardest step, is initiating contact, breaking the ice. And like I said, we're going to talk about that a little more in depth as we go along here. First impressions do tend to be important. Number two, once you break the ice, make conversation, engage, make the other person feel comfortable and valuable. If you can do that, then the more likely you will be in engaging. Be genuine and be a good listener. Listening is an important trait, and a lot of people take that for granted. I'll touch on that again a little bit more. And once you're done, close the conversation. Um, what that means is find a way to say, okay, thank you very much, or saying, listen, I'd like to talk to you again. Can we exchange information? We'll talk about that a little bit. All right. So let's talk about breaking the ice. Probably the most difficult part of trying to establish a relationship with anybody. So if you're really awkward about talking to someone, here's some ways that you might um, try to start a conversation. The easiest, simplest way is just hi. Probably the easiest way to initiate conversation. Very simple. Doesn't take a lot of effort. State your name. I'm Ray Kim. How you doing? What's your name? Sounds very natural. Comes out very naturally to me anyway. Give it a shot and see how it works for you. Start with some kind of compliment. Say, hey, that's a nice shirt you're wearing, or maybe I saw your presentation. I thought it was a really good one. Got to be careful though, because there is a difference between a genuine compliment and sucking up. You do want to be genuine when you make your compliment. Ask a question. Um, let's see. Listen, I went to your presentation about T-SQL, and I was very curious about how you did this. That's a question you might want to ask. Hey, or just a question in general. Something related to your event or situation. If you're at an event, if you're at an activity, if you're at work, whatever. Um, maybe talk about something that's happening there, wherever you are, and what's going on. Some neutral small talk. Um, how's the weather? How many times has that been brought up as an icebreaker? One thing I like to talk about is, like I said at the very beginning, I'm a big sports fan. Sports is one of the most universally loved topics of conversation. So more often than not, I'll start talking about, hey, how about those Yankees? Or even if the person's a Red Sox fan, you want to know something? I get a lot of um, I get a kick out of talking to a person from the opposite side, if you will. A lot of fun arguments have come out of sports, and it's enjoyable. I enjoy that. So I don't know, by the way, if that answers part of that person's questions about how do you make people like you, but that might be helpful there. Anyway, some things on the other side, there are things that you absolutely never, ever, 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 ever want to break the ice. Few of these things include never, ever start a conversation with anything related to politics or religion. Part of that reason is you don't know where the other person stands, and these are topics that are very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Controversial, I guess, and could potentially start fights. You don't want that. Anything that's socially unacceptable, politically incorrect, or offensive. I mean, you don't want to be sexist or racist. That is definitely something that will definitely turn people off and away from you. Um, Pick up lines in any way, shape, or form. We're talking about professional networking here. We're not talking about trying to pick up the guy or girl in the bar on the other side. Um, you don't want to start with anything personal, especially if you don't know that person. it's entirely possible that if you try to talk about anything personal to that person, you might just push them away. Brown nosing, sucking up, kissing up. Again, if you are going to engage with the person, you want to be genuine about it. Um, Anything boring or overwhelming, it's great that you know everything there is to know about, say, performance tuning, but is that really something that the other person you think is going to want to hear about? Um, you don't want to get to the point where the person talking to is constantly looking at his or her watch, tapping their foot, and say, "Okay, listen, I'm sorry, but I got to go." Um, that'll be closing the conversation, but not in a good way. Sales pitches. People don't want to listen to a sales pitch unless they expressly come up to you saying, "Listen, I'm looking for uh, something about this. Do you have such and such a product?" Um, if you're looking to break the ice, that's really not the way that you really want to do it. All right, so here's some other ways that you might want to break the ice. Things that you can do to possibly encourage conversation. We're an article of clothing that will start a conversation. I'm going to switch back to my camera here. Okay, so a couple of things of clothing. Like I said before, I bleed orange. I am loyal to my alma mater, so the shirt that I'm wearing here could definitely start a conversation. If I want to talk about some other things, I'm going to bring up a few of my props here. Let's see. If I want to talk about baseball, I might put this thing on. I've had people come up to me and say, "Hey, Yankee fan, how do you think the pitching staff looks this year?" That sort of thing. Also, by that token, one of the other places I'm very active with is my fraternity. Um, I'm Sometimes I wear this to certain events, and if I meet another person that has to be a fraternity brother, this will definitely spark some conversation as well. So sometimes what you wear will definitely be an icebreaker. Be very wary, however, about dressing appropriately to your events. If I go to a Sequel Saturday does tend to be a casual event, so I can get away with wearing T-shirts, baseball caps, stuff like that. I've done that before, presenting the Sequel Saturday. If you're at an event where you have to wear a shirt and tie, that might be a little more difficult. What you probably could do is maybe wear a tie that is reflective of you, that is a conversation piece. Um, I'm not sure what the equivalent of would be for women. I did ask my wife this question, and one thing that she suggested was wear a pin. That might be something that would spark conversation. Talk about your current situation or event. If you're at a Sequel Saturday, you can talk about topics that are talked about or presentations that are being talked about. If you're in the hallway in between events, you can ask people, "What did you think of that session?" or "What did you think of that presentation?" Great way to break the ice. Contribute to a conversation. Like I said, I try to, uh, whenever I do a Sequel Saturday presentation, I try to make it as interactive as possible. I try to encourage conversation. Um, Maybe something that somebody says in said conversation might be enough to spark something to be an icebreaker and get someone to introduce themselves or get talking. You want to be positive and authentic. More positive you are, the more attractive you'll be, if you will, to somebody who wants to come talk to you. Smile. One of the easiest way to make yourself presentable. Nonverbal communication. You smile at someone. You pretty much. I don't want to say inviting someone to come talk to you, but you're making yourself more approachable. And another thing that is probably uh, not said enough is be a good listener. Um, just listen to someone else talk and listen to someone approaching you. People take for granted how important of a communication skill that is, but by all means, be a good listener. All right, how are we doing? No questions, Paresh, right? Just checking. Okay, by that silence, I'm going to assume that either there are no questions
Uh,
or
I was trying to
sorry.
unmute. So
Yeah.
trying to unmute. So there was somebody who raised a hand, but I can't see who it is. So we can continue. And just a time check. It's about 2:40 now. So
Yep, I'm keeping an eye on the clock. All right. So here's where I would usually stop and have that exercise in networking. Unfortunately, we can't really do that here in a virtual setting. What I will do here is I'll talk about what we would do if we were all together in a room doing this session. Normally, what I would do is I would take a few minutes to do some networking in our room. And basically, what it is it's a little bit of an exercise and trying to get people comfortable networking, talking to other people. And basically, it's almost like a practice session. How do you break the ice? Hopefully, one thing I've heard a lot is people take those tips I used in those previous screens and they'll utilize those in this little exercise here. And what I encourage people to do, and you know what, for everybody who's listening in, maybe you might want to try this at your next event. Go to a person, introduce yourself, use your name, uh, where you're from, talk about what you do. And another thing that might be good conversation fodder and might help to break the ice a little bit is bring something up, maybe something interesting about yourself, at least one thing, or but no more than three that has nothing to do with your profession. What I find, and I don't know how other people might feel about this or experience with this, is that first of all, it makes you more approachable. Second of all, it makes you more, for lack of a better phrase, human. I mean, we all have lives outside of work. I like to think, and people are interesting. So it's entirely possible that these people might share interests with you. Like I said, sports, music. Those are all conversations I enjoy talking about. I mean, I could talk to someone for hours about baseball. If you see me on the street, well, maybe not in the street, but if you see me at a SQL Server event where we start talking about baseball, I could talk your ears off. So that's definitely something I love talking about. So some things to keep in mind when you're networking: exchange contact information. If you have business cards, by all means, create them. If you don't, uh, if you don't create them, rather, and if you have business cards, use them. Let me go back to the camera here for just a minute because I have another prop to show everybody here. What I have here are my own business cards, which I made up here. I'll hold this out to the camera here so that you can use them. Sorry, I'm covering up my own information for reasons I hope are obvious here. But on one side, it's got my basic contact information. On the other side, what I have here is this little picture here. It's basically a picture that I took of myself. It's a souvenir picture I took in Cooperstown. And you open it up. I'll hold this up to the camera so that everybody can look at this thing here. It's like a little bit of a mini resume in here. Now, the way that I came up with these things is basically one day I was sitting there, I was thinking, okay, I need to come up with these business cards, and I needed to come up with an idea for it. And I said, business cards, baseball cards. I put two and two together, and next thing I knew, I had these things. Um, Now, you don't have to come up with business baseball cards. Hey, come on, my idea, darn it. But basically, what I'm saying there is don't be afraid to be creative with whatever design you come up with. So, definitely connect over LinkedIn, and I'll talk about it a little more in just a minute. Be sensitive to the other person's feelings, wishes, and needs. You want to respect their requests. For example, if somebody says email, then don't call, then by all means, email, don't call. If you sense the other person is getting uncomfortable, back off. Um, Maybe you're saying something that's making them uncomfortable. Maybe you have an action that's making them feel uncomfortable. That might be a good a good time to say either change the subject or possible close the conversation. Um, Make yourself likable and approachable. You'll be more likely to connect. You want to be yourself. You want to be genuine. Don't try too hard to be overbearing. Um, one thing I've noticed is that if I try too hard, I will sometimes end up driving people away. Best piece of advice I could use for that is just be yourself. Be yourself, be comfortable, be relaxed. Okay, so to the person, by the way, who asked about what you could be doing more likable, I hope this answers your question. If it doesn't, feel free to ask again by the time we're done with this session. Got another 15 minutes or so, so try to get through these slides if you will. So anyway, let's talk about online networking. So a lot of people, I'm sure, use one of these: LinkedIn, Facebook. I won't go through all these, and I probably missed a few others, but you get the idea. This day and age, online networking is really important. Um, really important in that, first of all, um, you connect to a larger audience. You can extend your reach a lot more online than you do face to face, and it allows for an automatic way to keep track of things, resume information, contact information, that sort of thing. And the first way you can do that is over LinkedIn. Probably one of the biggest ways to do that. Social network for professionals. Um, some companies
Let
ask you
me
to.
let me add one more thing here.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm actually having a full session on LinkedIn coming up soon. So,
Okay,
yep.
okay. Is that the same as the lightning talk you gave at Albany, or?
Yeah, that lightning talk multiplied by five. So,
Yes, nice. Um, so Paresh can definitely attest to this, but some things I'll mention on this thing. I actually have seen job applications that have a space for your LinkedIn address. So that tells me that uh, companies do take LinkedIn very seriously. People use LinkedIn to look people up and maintain your resume information. Um, for people who have not been on LinkedIn, the story I like to tell, or the parable I like to tell, if you will, is this. Let's say you are a manager who's looking to fill one position. You have two resumes from two very qualified people. From looking at their resumes, almost identical. Either one of them can fill the position. You say to yourself, "I'd like to know more about this person." One of them has a LinkedIn profile, the other does not. Guess who is going to have the advantage? That in and of itself is a very good reason to maintain a LinkedIn profile. Um, LinkedIn also has the function of being able to referral, and there are a lot of others as well. Either too many to talk about here, and probably too many to talk about in just an hour. Just do a Google search for uses for LinkedIn. When I did that, I came up with a lot of hits. It's my opinion that if you are job hunting, you absolutely have to have a LinkedIn account. So, anyway, moving right along, let's talk about Facebook for a minute. Um, how many of you folks have a Facebook account? Um, don't need to answer that right now. If you want to raise your hand, go ahead, but that's just a general question. You're connected to a lot of friends who know you well, and that could especially work to your advantage if you're trying to network professionally. I mentioned at the top of this presentation that I got my current job through Facebook contact. And I actually wrote an entire blog article about looking and networking over Facebook. You know what? Not everybody's into Facebook. That's okay. I'm not saying you have to jump on Facebook to go network. All I'm saying is that it's another resource to go tap. I do maintain a blog. Online journal demonstrates what you know. Personal reference source. There have been times I've been looking for an answer to one of my own questions. I'll find out that I answered it months ago, maybe years ago. User comments makes it interactive so that people can get back to you about stuff. Um, by all means, if you are able to do so, start your own blog. I'm not going to get into it in depth right now. That goes beyond the scope of this presentation. But blogging would be a good thing if you want to get started with networking. and tuning your own horn, so to speak. Some other ways to network online, I'll just touch on these real quick. Some other forums like SQLServerCentral.com, Four Guys from Rolla if you're into .NET, Stack Overflow, Twitter. I personally don't have a Twitter account, but another resources you can go tap. I understand Google Plus is going away. Is that true, Presh? Do you know anything about that, or
Sorry, I was
that's okay?
uh,
Not
off.
important.
Right. Just repeat the question.
Yep.
No, what was the
So
question?
anyway,
What was the question, Ray?
sorry. Do we have a question there? No, no. Do you know if Google Plus is going away?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. So I guess that may no longer be applicable. So I'll probably have to update these slides. Um, some things to consider with online networking. Again, like I said, networking is always a two-way street. There's some online groups out there. We're talking on one right now, considering joining those. Other resources to go check out, and I'm going to push this a little along since we only have 10 minutes left here. There are a lot of other SQL Saturday presentations to go check out. Lisa Margram, who is out of the Philadelphia area, has one called Networking Your Way to Success, where she takes a more cognitive view of networking. I've seen that one. That's a very good one. The other one suggestion is, well, it's actually the presentation you're going to see in a couple of weeks. I called it Networking 101 because that's what he calls it in the actual SQL Saturday presentations. But Matt will be doing this on the 20th in a couple of weeks. So by all means, go check it out. It's a great presentation. Paresh, hey, check that out.
I,
Any any comments you want?
now, I think one of the things that I'm really very heartened to see over these past years is
Uh-huh.
that shift from that stupid stigma about social media. Oh, yeah, I can't do Facebook. I feel exposed. Oh, yeah, I can't do Twitter. It's a waste of time. Well, your next job, if it is not coming from internal sources, you have wasted a lot of years. So this
Yep,
would be.
yep. Sounds good. Like I said at the very beginning, I got my current job because of Facebook. So something to think about. Okay. Um, Years ago, I went to a SQL Saturday where I saw this presentation called "Building Business Contacts for IT Conferences." I don't know if he still presents at SQL Saturday or not. Um, I did find a blog for him. That's the address for his blog. I thought it was a great presentation. As a matter of fact, that's actually where I got the idea for stopping and doing my networking example earlier on. We did something very similar to that, but I thought it was a great presentation, so go check that out. And by all means, if there are other networking presentations that you see at a SQL Saturday, go check it out. Some other networking resources that, other than those already mentioned, if you have your own business, I would recommend going to check out an organization called BNI, Business Networking International. Go check out your local Chamber of Commerce. If you want to improve your speaking and social skills, like I said, I am a Dale Carnegie grad, so that is one place that I would highly recommend. You can improve your speaking skills there, and it's also about building self-confidence as well. If you know about an organization called Toastmasters, I myself am not a member, but I have a lot of friends who are members, and I understand that that is an excellent resource for social skills and for improving your own speaking abilities. I have considered joining that group myself. Right now, only lack of time is really what has kept me from doing so. But
So
those are
this
some
is
more.
not for social skills. It is more for the public speaking only. I graduated from Toastmasters in 2009 and from Dale Carnegie in 2012. So
Ah,
yep, I run my own classes now.
sounds good. Okay, and that's pretty much the extent of what I have. At this point, I will ask if anybody has questions, comments. Anybody hear any good jokes lately?
No, yeah, some questions actually. One of the things that I would love to see is um, possibly you can include that in the next time around is the amount of benefits you get by, you kind of alluded to it, but if you can speak to it in greater details about, volunteering for your church, volunteering for your child's sports events and stuff like that. So the thing that important uh, thing that stand out over here is that when you are actually volunteering, let's say for example, your child's softball game or a baseball game, you might actually be sitting next to a vice president of a company, and the vice president, the normal person with whom, the person with whom normally you would not be even be able to be seen in the same building with. So the chances now you're sitting next to that person, how to make most of that time. So it's not something that you can just learn from one or two conferences, but you have to keep on doing it. Listen to them. These are some great opportunities when, I mean, no pun intended, but the playing field is evened out and you both on the same level because your common goal is not job or work or professional services, but helping your children, right? So go ahead, build up these relations in places like this or in your church or temple or whatever your place of worship be. That's a super place to go. The other thing, uh, possibly, Ray, uh, is that when you go to these events like SQL Saturdays or Azure Data Fest or any similar events, don't waste these opportunities by sitting next to a person you know. Seriously, guys, can you raise your hands and show us how many actually sit next to somebody you know? Because
Yes, that's a great point. Let me add to that. Let me go back to that exercise about networking that I mentioned in my earlier slide. One of the things that I talk about when I do that little practice session is one of the very first thing I ask is I make sure that anybody in that room is sitting next to somebody they do not know. That is one of my requirements about doing that exercise networking. If you're sitting next to someone you know, then it pretty much defeats the entire purpose of networking. So that's a great point.
in fact, if you would have also noticed, right? Okay, so there is somebody else who is also asking a question about what advice do you have around following up with people we had conversations with at SQL Saturday. Right, this is coming from Andrew Peary, right?
Okay.
So give me one sec. Let me finish that other thought. Is that a lot of these company or corporate sponsorship events that you see, like we had a baseball game we went to. I went to see one of the Bruins, you remember? And a lot of these events you go to, one of the suckiest thing that I have seen, Ray, in my entire professional life is that there are more people from the same company, the vendor company, rather than the guests. And what they do is
Mm,
end up congregating next to each other as against even one person taking on the other person from the customers or the visitors. Their companies might have spent their dollar amount wisely, which doesn't happen. So we have like 3 minutes to go, so you can answer the question about the gentleman who asked about what do we do and how do we follow up after a SQL Saturday.
sure, no problem. That's an example where I think business cards would help very much. What that does is it gives you a chance to follow up on each other. You easily exchange contact information. That's an example of closing the conversation where you'd be like, "Hey, listen, I'd like to talk about this more. Any chance we could either call each other or email each other, or maybe possibly I don't know, get together for lunch or coffee." So that would be an example of closing conversation, exchanging information. So does that help?
Yeah, I think so, yes. And I don't know, I'll let Andrew actually respond to that. But one of the things is that you should not be content just by giving away your cards. You want to actually take that person's contact information too and
Yes.
Go to Staples. It's like 250 cards for 9.99 or something like that. Again, I'm not a salesperson for Staples or Vistaprint or whatever it is, right? But the thing is that go ahead and get some cards printed saying that you met me at SQL Saturday 813 in Boston on March 30. That will always trigger a lot of things for these people. Once you connect on LinkedIn and on start following them on Twitter, most speakers are on Twitter except the present company. I am, but you will definitely see that the more people you follow, the people follow you, and it is these small 280 characters of tweets that can sometimes change your life. So please,
Yes.
like for example, when I lost my job about 3 weeks ago, right, and I
Hmm.
got 62 retweets, Ray, about my job situation from people that these are some really heavy hitters in the SQL industry. So I was
Yes.
happy that the stuff that I do on social media really paid me off. I've already had 4 interviews in 4 different companies, waiting for the next round now. So just keep your heart there, guys. It's about 2:59. So just any parting things you want to say, Ray? Because I have a 3 o'clock meeting also. So I
Okay,
would.
nothing I can think of right now. If has those business cards I showed you earlier, I created those myself on Vistaprint. So go check out vistaprint.com if you want to create your own business cards. That's a great resource.
So he's talking about creating user groups. Okay, so BJ, can you just go ahead and email it to us? We don't really have the time for it now, but yes, user groups is a super duper idea. It takes a lot of work, and I can actually send out my email to you guys. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but yeah, I think I know. So
Eh,
feel free to.
Actually, if you go check out my blog, I also have articles about user groups out there. So go check that out.
Okay. So and can you just share that blog back?
Okay, can you see my screen? It's actually on the bottom of the screen here.
Okay. So piano Ray K. And cool. Okay, so hey, Ray, we got to wrap it up. I have a call that was expected. Okay,
Sounds good. Thank you guys very much for listening to me ramble.
thanks, guys. Okay, have a
Uh,
absolutely fabulous rest of the day.
Hey, have
And
a good day, everybody.
yes, we'll catch up with you in 2 weeks for Network 102. Thanks. Bye.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks so much.
Yep. Bye bye.